Ukraine's defensive line is on the verge of collapse as Russia broke through. It's day 792 of Russia's operation in Ukraine. Let's dive deeper. Starting from the Avdiivka sector. Since last week, Russia has been extremely successful on this front. In previous report, we saw how Russian forces activated northwestern axis as they were advancing along the railway line towards Ukraine. At the initial stage, it appeared that they wanted to capture the Bakhmut and Ukraine to weaken the Ukrainian grouping in Berdichi and Semenivka, because Ukrainians were getting supply through these villages. But it is much more important and significant than that. If we look at the topographic map, then you can see that the Ukraine is situated on a very dominant height. It has been acting as one of the strongest Ukrainian points on this front. So if Russians are somehow able to create the bridgehead and capture the heights, they will be able to advance at the rear of the Ukrainian forces on these two axes. As you know, Ukraine, after the loss of Avdiivka, has prepared their new line of defense here. But if the Russians advance to their rear, there is a real chance of collapse of Ukraine's defensive line. And as you can see, this could be a massive loss. So for the last 7 days, Russian forces have increased their focus on this axis. In my last report, we saw how they captured this section of the tree line and reached this intersection. At this initial stage, it seemed like Ukrainians were not expecting a big push from Russians. In just a few hours, it was confirmed that Russian forces pushed Ukrainians back and took this whole area under their control. They were now only 1.5 kilometers away from the Ukraine. Now, as the Russians were getting closer to these two settlements, Ukrainian defense was getting stronger. However, they continued to push forward. In the next 24 hours, they were able to reach the first building of Ukraine, as fights were taking place for the substation. Simultaneously, they were also planning to assault Bakhmut and advance northwards. But the initial surprise had worn off. The Ukrainians were able to regroup and were providing strong resistance at the substation. But at the north of the railway line, Russians took this section under their control. Now, after intense fighting for the substation for 2 days, Russian forces were finally able to take it under their control. It seemed like the loss of the substation opened the doors for Russian forces, because in just a few hours, they were able to push Ukrainian forces to the northern part and took complete control of the southern part of the village. Ukrainian sources were saying that their brigade station here was so overwhelmed that it withdrew without a fight. So they had to redeploy 47th Mechanized Brigade to hold the Russians back. Their Bradley was seen attacking Russian forces around this area. But Russians did not stop, they carried on their momentum further. In the next few hours, they were able to capture the central part of the village. This was confirmed by the Russian video, which shows their soldiers at the center of the village. It was at this point speculated that Ukrainian forces have completely withdrawn from the village, and it will take Russian forces a couple of days to clear the area. According to today's report, they were able to clear 95% of the village. In the meantime, after the Russian forces captured the central part, they increased their pressure on Bakhmut. Reports say they started attacking it from multiple directions. As a result, Ukrainian forces withdrew from the village. However, they did not stop there, they have already started attacking Solovyov. If we zoom out, you can see Russian forces were very successful in capturing the strategically important point. From here, it is possible that they will try to collapse the Ukrainian defensive line. Subscribe for more frontline updates. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.